Hi, Anna. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on and share your story. It was a tough time for you and your family with the loss of a loved one. And then you got hit with probate, with your loved one not having a will. And I just wanted to let people know how important it is to spend a little bit of time and some money to get that will and not to go ahead and leave all of this stuff that we have to take care of for those folks that we loved, and it doesn't give us a time to grieve them. It's just this perpetual frustration, and so thank you for coming on to tell me about it, or tell our audience about it.
Sure.
Before before this happened to you, did you realize what the importance of a will or probate was?
Tanya, actually, honestly, I really did not think about wills and probate too much. However, as I'm getting older, or as I was getting older, I did start to think about getting a will in order, especially and primarily because I am single and I essentially choose to live alone and by myself. And I'm thinking after this, especially after this experience, that, when I go, no one's going to really know what to do. So as I got older, I really started thinking about getting a will. But again, I just didn't put it at the forefront and honestly never really thought about probate.
So what surprised you about probate? I know this is a loaded question because we both went through it, but what surprised you about it?
What really surprised me about it is how complex the process is. And I know that it may vary from state to state, but I was really just overwhelmed at how intricate of a process this is and how long it takes to get through it. And also how much guidance you really don't get. I had to do most of the research and answer most of the questions at the very beginning by doing research by myself. Yes, they give you some information for the state of South Carolina. What I received was just a basic, small 4 or 5 page general pamphlet. But as the process started, I really didn't know what direction it was going to go in. And as I had questions, I would reach out to my probate representative, and it would sometimes take days to get a response or a phone call, and still not feeling fulfilled with information that I was getting. It led me to the final choice of hiring a probate attorney to assist me and my family through this. So, really, just limited information and really had no idea what to expect. So, getting a probate attorney was my best option.
Well, I know that when you came to me, you needed to sell your loved one's home and you were out of state. So that even made it more complicated of how to clean it out, what goes to who, and then listing the property and all of the paperwork that you had to go through of listing that property, of making the repairs, of keeping all of the receipts. I remember seeing you with this huge notebook when we went to court. And not only did we sell it, I mean, we got an offer, but it was months before the court approved the sale. And thank goodness we had a great buyer that was not in a hurry, but I don't remember how many months it was. Maybe it was 6 months. To me, it seemed like an eternity, but I don't think it was that long. But you had to track everything.
Yep.
And it must have been so frustrating, especially since the county that you had that home in, there was only one probate judge.
Right. It was extremely difficult to get that process going. Luckily, I had you and your team on my side, primarily you, and also the patient buyer. Um,
Mhm.
but like you said, in order to get the whole process going, it took about a good 5.5 months. And that was, you know, keeping up with my loved ones' final bills, and also continuing to pay utilities for the dwelling as
That's
we were
right.
going through the process. I developed a very extensive Excel spreadsheet that had just about everything you can imagine relating to this process on that. So it definitely took concentration and accuracy and neatness to keep every little expenditure listed, and essentially keeping that in order to take it to court once we could finally get to that point to get approval to, yes, go ahead and sell. But definitely very daunting task because there were repairs that had to be made. So they're scheduling people to come out that are in that field to come and look at things, give us a quote, get payment to them. And I will stop at that point to mention about the payments. It involved me getting a separate estate bank account. And this happens with pretty much any situation where there's a liquidation of assets to an estate. You must get an estate bank account. In order to do that, you have to have the paperwork that states you are the power of attorney and that you have permission from the court to do this and to set it up. And you must do that in the state that the loved one, the deceased, resided at, which was South Carolina. I was in Chicago, Illinois at the time. So there were several trips back and forth to get this established and to finalize that estate bank account in order to receive funds from assets that were being paid out to the estate, not to me directly or to my mother and father, but to the estate. So to have those funds somewhere to allot them to go to, and then work from that to pay out for repairs, et cetera, that had to be done to the dwelling. So that's a big part of it too. There are so
Yes.
many different layers to consider, and it's extremely daunting and requires all of your attention at the time. So I didn't have time to grieve at all, really during the whole process, especially during this part. That was the main focus to get the house in a position where we could move it and sell it with you and get that wrapped up. That was the biggest thing.
And I know that we don't like to think about dying,
No,
but it's going to happen to all of us sometime sooner rather than later. And
right.
it is such a blessing to have a will or a trust or some kind of instructions to
Yes,
leave our loved ones because it can be, like you said, it can be daunting.
right.
And that's the last thing we want to leave for our family or our loved ones. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And we started
Absolutely.
out as clients, then became best friends, and
Absolutely.
it
Definitely.
was it
And that's
was
a silver lining too, definitely. And I'm so grateful for you and helping us through this, really, and grateful that we can remain in contact. And I just, if anything, and I appreciate you having me on to speak. And my feelings about getting a will and or a trust is that it is so important, like you said, so that our loved ones who are in shock and grieving because they've lost you don't have to make these decisions. It is so hard to take those steps to try and figure out what is the best way to honor this person. If you have a will and a trust, then you've laid that out. Yes, there will be some work, but at least it's a clear and transparent plan of what the wishes were for this loved one. And I will also state that um, people that I have spoken to within this last year and actually during the process too, is that they don't think they have adequate assets to merit getting a will or trust. Well, that's incorrect. Whether or
Mhm.
not you have substantial or a modest asset world within your living, it doesn't matter at what level. What matters is laying out that plan for your loved one, and whatever assets you do have, you have the opportunity to delegate who receives what or what gets to go to charity or to the church or wherever you wish it to go. Make that decision for your loved one and allow them the time to complete everything as wished and be able to have the time to grieve and remember good memories instead of worrying about all of the headaches that come along with not having a plan.
And you don't want the court to be involved in your own personal decisions.
Mhm.
Just to wrap it up,
Yeah,
we got a buyer to buy the property and the court had to approve the sale. It's like, what? It wasn't a lowball offer. Everything was taken care of, but yet we had to have the court's blessing.
absolutely. Yep.
So,
And it could be avoided, really. Seriously,
mhm,
most of it can be avoided.
yep. Well, thank you so much, my
You're
friend
welcome.
Anna.
Thank you
It
so
was
much, Tanya. It's so nice to be here and to see you. And I appreciate telling my story. And I hope that someone could gain something from it to help them too.
I think they will. I know they will.
Good.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome, and thank you very much, and take care.
Hang